All right, hello and welcome to the GGG podcast. Actually, the GGG Spoilercast, because we're going to be covering Spider-Man 2 in our first Spoilercast. I'm very excited. And for the first time, we have three people on the show. So as usual, Phil is here along with a colleague. Joe is here as well. Joe, how you doing?
Hey guys, thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
I'm good. Just staying hydrated.
Good to stay hydrated.
It's important when you're shooting that much web. You got to make sure to stay hydrated. It's one of the things that it's a Spider-Man trick 101. One of many things we're going to spoil in this podcast.
Yeah, especially if you're Toby and you have to make the webs yourself using your body. So good thing to remember.
So many questions about all of that.
The Christian way to make webs.
Yeah.
From your body.
Well, I'm glad they addressed that in the last Spider-Man movie. That was very affirming for me.
Yes.
All right. So before we dive in, just as a final warning, if you're listening to this podcast as you would normally do, this is a spoiler cast. So if you do not want to know intricate details about what happens in Spider-Man 2 and our detailed opinions, please stop listening and go play it yourself, and then come back and listen to it and see if we can affirm any of your opinions, or you can have an argument with us that we don't get to listen to. So we're just going to jump in. Joe, this is your first time on the show, so just, I guess, what are your general thoughts with Spider-Man 2, and yeah, just as a game, and just generally, what'd you think of it?
Yeah, I loved it. I never pay full price for any game. I think the Spider-Man franchise is the only franchise that I've actually bought the game the week that it comes out. And my girlfriend can attest to the lack of sleep and the bags under the eyes and me 100%ing it and be like, let me just tell you about what happened. The story is so good, and it's better than the MCU right now. It's so good. You got to listen to me. So I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Yeah.
Right on. Yeah, I think Phil and I are on this, kind of on the same page. We both really enjoyed it. Similarly, I've been telling my girlfriend, things that are going on, although she wants to play it as well. So I'm trying to hold back. Hopefully she doesn't listen to this to hear our spoilers. But yeah, just as a refresher, Phil, how did you feel about it? Have your feelings changed since we last talked about Spider-Man 2?
I don't know if they've changed. I've definitely refined a few things feelings-wise.
Okay.
A lot of it depends on what Insomniac's next move is. I think that's kind of big for me, because I feel like they're in a really good position to do some cool stuff. And I know that they love these characters. However, there are a couple big things in this, and I'm like, oh wait, where does that leave us room for a third game? Or where does that some of the different off ramps of characters that I want to see again? So yeah, that's about where I'm at. I loved it. I think it's one of the best games I've played this year. I'm excited for New Game Plus to take another crack at it. Mm-hmm. But I've still been swinging around probably an hour every day when I'm I'll put something on my computer, on my phone, and just swing, and it's great.
That's awesome. Well, let's actually use that as a jumping off point, because I guess let's look at where the universe is by the end of the game, and where do we think they're going? Because you said your opinion was kind of dependent on that. I'll start. For me, they seem to be lining it up for this was Peter Parker's game. There's lots of Miles content in it, but it's Peter Parker's story, revolving around Harry and Venom and all of that. And they seem to be, to me, pushing it so that maybe Spider-Man 3 is, you might still be able to play as Peter Parker, but it will more so be like Miles' game. Do you guys agree with that sentiment?
Yeah.
Go.
Jinx. I feel like right now in the Spider-Man 2, Peter is the main guy, Miles is the secondary, and in the third, it would make sense. I could even see it would suck if Peter died. But I mean, it'd be a move. It'd be a move just to consolidate and be like, all right, Miles is now the only Spider-Man in this universe. I would actually like that. Yeah. I know it's. I think they've done so much with Peter Parker already, and Insomniac can do no wrong either. They could literally do at this point in the franchise, they could do whatever they want, and I'd be like, well, they're batting at 100, so let's see Peter Parker die. Maybe Aunt May comes back from the dead as a zombie, kills Peter Parker. I'm like, that sounds crazy, but if Insomniac did it, I'd be like, well, give them a chance.
let's hear them out.
What if?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's interesting because at this point, Peter and Miles have both had a game. Miles, I think, was the Miles Morales Spider-Man game was a little bit shorter, but I do feel like Miles was kind of the hero of this game for me. Like, he was the one who kind of saved the day at every chance he had. He had full character arc with Martin Lee, developed new powers. Like, his story seemed the most like he is actually Spider-Man, and Peter seemed like he was definitely at the point where he needs a break, but kind of almost at the end or midlife crisis of his Spider-Man journey.
Sure.
So I kind of hope the third one, maybe we see Miles kind of face something that he can't overcome. I want to see a little bit more challenge for him, and then have Peter sort of come back as a wizened adult Peter Parker, because that's something that we rarely get to see in the comics, the movies. Peter Parker's always young, beginning adolescent, adulthood. It would be cool to see a 30, 40 something year old Peter show back up and be like, I learned some stuff about superheroing. Let me help out,
Sure. A little Spider-Verse storytelling right there.
But in this third game, we're also probably going to see Cindy Moon, Silk, the character they kind of teased at the very end.
Yeah.
And I'm interested to see if it will be 3 playable Spider people. We have so many interesting side characters that pop up. After you finish the game, you'll be fighting a crime, and either Miles will show up or Wraith will show up. So they really have a lot of different places they could go.
They do have a lot of places they could go, but just kind of calling back to some stuff Joe said at the beginning, is they threw so much. They threw so many things in this game. Think about how many villains are in this game. So many villains. And then think about the villains that they covered in the first Spider-Man game. It's just who's left on the roster that they can really pull out for Peter. So I feel like it's going to be we're going to do new villains, and have Miles do that. Venom is Spider-Man's greatest villain. And I think that they did his character really well. I love that they made him Harry instead of Eddie Brock, or I know there's a couple different people that have been Venom, throughout the comics and everything. But yeah, I feel I could also see if they didn't want to kill Peter Parker, of hey, there's this mysterious aircraft carrier in the Hudson right now, and it has this eagle logo on it, and Peter's working over there for some reason. Something like that. Yeah. Or I have a quick personal question. Do you, because Avengers Tower is in the game now, I don't need the Avengers in this game. I think it's a great standalone Spider-Man game, but I think having Avengers Tower there, and I know there was some tentative stuff of Square Enix's Marvel's Avengers game is going to maybe be attached to this, because in the first game, Peter was they're on the West Coast somewhere,
And that's where that game starts off.
Exactly. Yeah. But do you ever think we're going to see a more expansive Marvel universe? We got confirmation that Wolverine is going to be in the same universe as Spider-Man. Do you think maybe there's going to be S.H.I.E.L.D. or Daredevil or anything like that?
I'm hoping that they build off of this Spider-Man franchise, Wolverine, and then just kind of do it like the old school MCU did with Iron Man, couple solos. I hope to God they're not gonna shoehorn the Square Enix Avengers, because that was a shit game, and it would just taint it down, so bad.
It was fun. Paul and I both played a good amount of
If
Avengers.
you're a masochist,
I know you played Avengers as well.
I mean, what I've said repeatedly about that game, it's not an event. It's not really an Avengers game, as it really is just a Marvel's Ultimate Alliance 4. That's what that game is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I like that. See, if I thought it was going to be Ultimate Alliance 4, I probably would have enjoyed it more. But it looks so good in the trailers, and I was like, oh my God, this is like Spider-Man, but like the Avengers, this could be amazing. But yeah, just a complete disappointment. Now, I want to pose a question real quick, because I am a gamer that likes competitive shooters, and every once in a while, a great story. Did you guys play Spider-Man on a high difficulty, normal difficulty, or easy?
Ooh, I played
And
it on
why?
normal.
Normal? Okay.
Because it's like when you go to a restaurant, I try not to get like anything exchanged for anything. Comes like, how does the chef make it? Let me try it how the chef makes it. You know?
I have
You appreciate games so much. Yeah, go ahead. It's like a Michelin chef. Like you have to stir it in and seep in the aromas.
Yeah, well, you gotta try the recipe the first time. I played it on normal. I played the remastered on the hardest difficulty. I think I was kind of scared to play it on the hardest difficulty because the DLC for the first game, I remember being very hard. And I was like, I'm level 50. Why is this so hard? And so that kind of scared me away a little bit. But you know, I'm definitely gonna play it on ultimate difficulty. So I don't know because New Game Plus isn't in the game yet, but I might just go back.
What? Now I might be a noob, but what is Game Plus? What is this Game Plus that you're talking about?
New Game Plus is you can go back and start the game over, but with like all of your abilities and experience that just carry over with you.
Got it.
I think the ones that aren't related to story stuff are just automatically unlocked.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. So you guys play it on normal, but then you go back with your skills and your experience.
So it's a little bit easier. Like,
slam dunk everyone.
yeah, I mean, it's fun to dunk. So.
Yeah. I played it on normal, but when I fought the side mission with Wraith, I died 3 times, and I said to myself, I refuse to play it a 4th time, and I put it down to easy, beat Wraith, and then put it back to normal. So, like, anytime I died 3 times to a boss, I switched it to easy just to enjoy, like, the story.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I get it. Spider-Man wins. I could eventually learn these mechanics, but I don't want to invest the time. I'd rather see this cutscene right now.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. That's one thing about the game is they really had you like excited to move on to the next cutscene. Okay. Where they could go, that mission ties in because it leaves us with Cletus Cassidy, who becomes Carnage. Those fire missions where like you fight Wraith. I'm excited to see that. I don't know if that's going to be like in a DLC.
That's what it felt
Venom's...
like to me. It felt very DLC like.
Yeah.
Implied.
It's a weird setup if you're going to leave a whole like gap before the next game. Like it feels like there's got to be something in the middle there. Similarly, if you get all like the vulture bots that Kraven set up, you find that his brother Chameleon is going to start hunting Spider-Man. And then, of course, the big one that we're leaving off, the Green Goblin, which I think like Venom and Green Goblin kind of go back and forth in terms of his greatest adversary, because Venom is like everything that is a dark reflection of Spider-Man, but Green Goblin is sort of like, if you look at the MCU, what Peter Parker has with Tony Stark, it's a similar relationship, except like Tony Stark is truly evil in Norman Osborn.
Sure.
So I am excited to see their adaptation of the Green Goblin. We've come a long way from the Power Ranger suit of the Sam Raimi films, and I'm excited to see like what they do a really good job of like picking bits from like all of the movies and all the comics and like forging something new and beautiful. So I'm excited to see that. But
yeah, I do think like the Green Goblin sounds more Spider-Man 3. Carnage, the other Cravens, that sounds DLC to me. And then there was also, I brought up Daredevil because there's a thing floating around online, and a reporter actually asked someone who worked for Insomniac that like outside of Daredevil's like law office, their sign was missing, and they asked them about it, and they said that they will find out more information later. So which kind of implies that there might be some Daredevil thing there. I know in the comics, Daredevil and Spider-Man have worked together many times. But we brought up bosses earlier, and I think like a big difference between Spider-Man 2 and 1 or even Miles Morales was just the frequency and the amount of boss fights that were in this game. Like I don't even do either of you know how many bosses are in this game? I would probably say like over 10 like legitimate bosses.
I think I guess with in terms of boss fights, some of them were reoccurring. Like you fight Kraven more than once. You fight Venom twice.
Yeah.
God, you fight Kraven like 3 times. Twice as Peter, and then once as Venom.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell. It seems like 10 feels like the right number.
It's 10 sounds about right. I wonder what the actual number is. But what really terrified me about the boss fights were, and Spider-Man's not the first game to do this. There's a bunch of other games that does this. But you beat the health bar goes down. You're like, I fucking did it. And then he does a backflip and he's like, now I'm taking you serious. Like, what I just beat you. And he's at full life again. Now he has stronger attacks. I'm like, wait, I didn't manage my ability meters and the healing. I guess it's a good thing because it gets you more involved in the fight, but that was also frustrating.
It was good to have those cinematic like cutscenes in between, but it was always like this rule of 3. There are 3 health bars that you have to beat. It's never just the first one.
So that Wraith one in particular, you like knock her against a wall and like it crumbles on her, and she gets back up, and you're like, you were just a cop.
Yeah, that was a little
superhero.
Also, this is a side mission. Why are you getting back up?
Yeah,
stay down.
Stay down. I got stuff to do.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite boss fights, or like I guess boss fights are for like these big set piece numbers. Some of my favorite missions in this game were the MJ ones, which is weird, and I feel maybe like I'm a weird perverted minority for liking them so much. Because they made her fun, like she's got the taser gun, she's just zapping people, and it's not frustrating and like slowing you down all the time. And then the sequence when she kind of is trying to get through to symbiote Peter, and he is like terrifying and like hunting her like a monster, is one of my favorite like Spider-Man moments. Additionally, when she's carrying like Peter as he's been stabbed, and you see Harry like fighting Kraven and completely wrecking him because he's using the symbiote, like. Some of my favorite cinematic moments were where it like kind of forced you to slow down. Did you guys like the MJ stuff? I know that a lot of people didn't like it in the first game, myself included, just because it was such an immense slowdown. But I really feel like they nailed the pacing this time with the MJ stuff.
You go ahead, Joe.
Oh yeah, I absolutely. Well, I remember the first game you play as MJ, and I was pleasantly surprised with how fun those missions were. And then at the start of Spider-Man 2, I thought, wow, I'm playing as Miles and Parker. There's no way in hell I'm going to just play a normal human. But then they give you a couple of missions, including like one of the coolest cinematic walkthroughs where you're holding Peter stabbed and Kraven's fighting Harry. It's just complete magic that they were able to balance it, and you still feel like, okay, great. MJ is still a very big part of the story, and she is a big part of the resolution of the conflict with destroying the Rock, and everybody has a different mission. I loved it. Yeah.
I love that last mission where they gave everybody was participating. Everybody had a little mission, and just for the MJ missions in the first game, I didn't mind them. Like a lot of people hated them. I didn't like or dislike. They were just kind of there. I think the thing that was lacking for me in the first game was that it was just the same mechanics over and over again, which is like hide behind this piece of cover. And I've done that so many times in video games that I was just like, okay, I get it. I just got to wait till the person turns around and blah, 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 blah. And I think something that was very successful in this game is every new MJ mission you did, there was a new mechanic you were working with. Where it was like, now her gun has a web shooter. Now it's an electric pistol,
Yeah.
And so every time you came back, there was a new thing. So it made it a little bit more engaging each time. But yeah, I loved it. I thought she had a much more active role in the story in this game as opposed to just being, like I'm complaining about things, and why don't you have time for me, Spider-Man? Because he's Spider-Man. So, yeah, loved all that.
I love that she's not like MJ is no longer just sort of a damsel in distress, harlot. Like
Harlot.
Listen, she left J. Jonah Jameson's son in the second Spider-Man, but she left him at the altar when she knew there was problems. I love that. I love the mission with her as Shriek, the sort of like venomized. That was a really cool way to incorporate that character that has such a interesting design, but I feel like never gets the proper amount of love in the comics.
Sure.
I do want to ask you guys, I know we talked a little bit about it, but I feel like it's such an important thing. Venom, Harry, how do we like how they treated Venom in the story? Because I think it was excellent, but I have some caveats, but I want to hear your opinions first.
I teared up when he said, "We are Venom." I thought it was so cool. I thought the buildup was perfect. I thought that they rode the line between, okay, is Harry still in there? Is Harry not in there? Harry's gone, right? He just killed Kraven. He's gone. But then he's pouring tea with his little symbiote, and he still wants Peter to be his best friend. Oh, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I had no qualms with them not having Eddie Brock. I thought Harry, especially how they sold Harry and Peter's friendship for a big part of the beginning of the game. I think in movies, you don't get enough time to really develop relationships, but in video games, it's like a TV show, but it's a movie, but you're playing the characters. So loved it.
Yeah. I would agree. I really liked this rendition of Venom. I think like there's always this bond between Venom and Spider-Man, and making Venom Harry made a lot of narrative sense to me. And that's what keeps them connected in the final battle. That's why Venom, holds back or doesn't necessarily want to kill Peter. And so it added this layer of dramatic tension where it's like, it's not just some guy who has a symbiote. No disrespect to the, characters who are Venom. But yeah, it just made a lot of narrative sense for it to be Harry. I love the relationship there, and it gave them a lot of dialogue to play with in the latter section of the game, instead of he's just a bad guy now. You just got to beat up the big old bad guy. It was so much more than that, and I think from a gameplay perspective, I don't think anybody was expecting to play as Venom. Just for that little sliver of gameplay.
Oh, I love that.
It was like the amount of clips I've seen online and myself when it's like, oh my God, I can press attack right now and I'm playing as Venom. Like I had hoped that would be something that they would do, but the fact that they did it felt incredible. Just because like I've definitely never seen Venom portrayed in a more like Venom aside from the Harry stuff. Like I've never seen him more accurately portrayed than in this game, where it's like his size, his strength, his eyes, and his teeth animations, even from like the Venom movies, which are bad movies, but just even the look of it looked really right to me. But let's hear about your qualms, Phil.
Okay. Well, okay.
Wrong. I'm kidding. No, go ahead.
Well, the first thing I was gonna say was nice. No, I loved the relationship building, like leading up to it. The fact that like Peter and Harry playing basketball to the shins made it into this game, and like felt so. I think it's just because we grew up maybe with that music. Like when we were in high school, that was our like sort of emotional raw like friend music. It was perfect. And I really like that the symbiote, usually there's a love story kind of between the symbiote and Spider-Man and Peter, that it feels like rejected, and that's why it bonds to someone else, and it's like the rebound type of thing. Mm-hmm. But in this one, both Harry and the symbiote were like, Pete, dude, it'd just be better if you joined us because we've got this super cool plan and everything's going to work out great. There was also so many great little details. So on the face of the symbiotes that like you fight, there's that sort of pattern which ties into Null, the god of the symbiotes, who like if you're familiar with Guardians of the Galaxy, they hang out nowhere, which is like a big decapitated space god. Null was the one who like cut the head of that thing off with his cool sword.
Oh my god. Okay.
Yeah, so it's like a nice little deep cut. Eventually he comes back in the comics, Venom fights him, all this stuff. The anti-Venom stuff, pretty incredible. That was such a great way in gameplay wise to bring back those powers that Peter gives up when he loses the symbiote.
Yeah.
Because I think we're all wondering, like, are you going to give us cool stuff and you're going to take it away?
Yeah.
That's not how video games work,
but
but...
Yeah, I was very sad.
But I was still just as surprised when he had the anti-venom suit. I was like, oh, it was definitely that moment for me.
Totally. Yeah, it was, I had my suspicions of seeing Martin Lee pop back up. But anyway, on to my qualms, on to my things that I'm a little reserved about. I do want to see Eddie Brock Venom. I think there's a million ways they could do it. And if they do their own Venom game, I think Eddie Brock is the perfect character to do it, because I think Harry should stay out of the limelight for a while, especially when it comes to Venom.
Yeah, I think he's done as
Yeah.
Venom. I mean, they spend a whole game building up. They're not gonna they bring him back as Venom. That's be pretty lame. So
Yeah. I think like they should. Okay, man, I've got so many pitches. I've in the comics there is a thing where Carnage merges with the Green Goblin, and Brian Intihar, the like lead producer on the game, said that Spider-Man 3 is going to be their end game if this was like their Civil War in terms of the MCU. I feel like combining Carnage and the Green Goblin is one of Spider-Man's greatest threats. That would be a cool end boss. Mm-hmm. But I want to see like a good Venom. We never see that except for those Venom movies, which I don't count because they're not real Venom. But
that's Eddie Brock, isn't it, in the Venom movie?
That is Eddie Brock,
Yeah.
but he doesn't have the white spider. It's like I feel like Venom isn't real without the context of Spider-Man. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Okay.
I would love to
Venom
see
is
that.
Venom's more of like a buddy comedy film that a producer was, yeah, we like Venom, we like buddy comedies, let's do that.
Yeah, they'll just argue the whole time. It'll be so much fun to watch.
Someone told me it is low-key like a gay camp icon, and I was like, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
I can see that.
Okay.
Very easy to see that, yeah.
But yeah, that's I really would like to see a Venom game. They said they're open to it. That would be cool to have like Eddie Brock. You sort of do a Miles Morales game, but it's Eddie Brock fighting Carnage. Super into that. I also wonder if we'll see Carnage pop up again in the Wolverine game, because he feels like a better fit for that like very brutal, gory universe. But,
Sure.
okay, I've waxed poetically enough about Venom.
I didn't hear any qualms in there. Where were the qualms?
Yeah.
There were a bunch of pitches.
There was a bunch of pitches. I just don't think that. I feel like Eddie Brock kind of has to be in the Venom story. He's too important.
Okay.
And I just don't want this to be the conclusion of their Venom story. Such an interesting character, and I think who can be more than a villain. And the sort of like one note painting of it is a little bit of a bummer for me. Like they did so much with Sandman and Mysterio and all of these other characters. Kraven the Hunter had these excellent layers. I would like to see just that other representation of Venom. And he's got such a big fan base that I feel like at least 50% of the Spider-Man fan base is like, yeah, but are you going to do actual Venom? I don't know. Also, Venom with wings, by the way, so good. So, like stolen from the Null comics, like where Venom becomes this weird god and like fights this other evil space god. That was incredible looking, and that
You
whole
sound
fight
like
was
all like your qualms are compliments.
Yeah, I
Let me
don't
just-
if they don't come back to it, that's a qualm. That's a qualm.
Okay,
I think
okay.
they could easily bring back Venom as Eddie Brock, and just be done with just the Harry portion of it. It's like we did Venom as a villain, as Harry. So now, like, as this new character, Eddie, we can make him a hero, or, you know, it can be Agent Venom, or all the different even though they kind of did Agent Venom with Harry.
Yeah.
So
I was delighted to see Agent Venom also, because it's like a weird like 5-year period that no one really remembers. I feel like it was just such a great little like, here's a little tidbit for you.
Do you guys finish I assume both of you 100% at the game.
But I have not gotten all the trophies, but I'm
okay.
on
But
my
the
way.
side quests
Yes.
and everything.
Yes.
Okay. Because Craven, I was a little delirious while I was playing it because I stayed up a whole night. One of those days, I went to sleep at 6 a.m. Playing the game.
Right
So
on.
Craven's daughter is alive and killed everyone else. Is that correct?
I think Craven killed her.
Oh, Craven kills her.
I think
Because at
so.
the end, I remember I finished that side mission, and I thought the last audio clip I heard from her was saying that she had killed everybody, and then Craven saying like that he will kill her. But maybe I was just super tired and I misinterpreted.
I was confused about that as well. So yeah, Phil, if you're looking it up, let us know.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now.
So my interpretation was she's alive, and then Craven was gonna die soon in the story anyways, or was already dead by Venom, which means that she would naturally take Craven's place if that villain popped up again in the world, which would probably be a side mission. It for sure wouldn't be the Spider-Man 3 main villain.
Yeah, I can't find anything quickly, so I'll have to come back to this.
Okay, no worries.
But I was too delirious, like at that point. It was like, just gotta get the platinum. Let's just go.
yeah.
All right. Well, as far as like other Spider-Man games before this, and that's every Spider-Man game that's ever come out, I've played all the way back to like the PlayStation 1 Spider-Man game. I freaking loved that game as a kid. Do you guys, where do you rank this? Is this the best Spider-Man game ever? Is it up there? Is it somewhere in the middle? It's definitely not the worst.
The Spider-Man for the Game Boy is the best. It's a 2D action platformer. No,
There it is.
For me, probably number one. This is the number one game
Sure.
from Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm. I think Spider-Man 1 for the PlayStation 4, so the beginning of this franchise, blew my socks off. It was so much better than I thought it could ever be. The swinging was, I'm just reiterating what everybody already knows. The swinging was just mind-blowing. And I think I replayed that game more than once, which is a little bit rare for me because I just like to see the story like a movie. And then Spider-Man Miles Morales was fantastic but short. And then Spider-Man 2 is I want to say is better than Spider-Man 1, but that like surprise that Spider-Man 1 gave me, because I didn't really know what to expect. Like, okay, yeah, Insomniac's good, but how good can they be? I feel like Spider-Man 1 might still be that number one spot for me because of how much they surprised me. And it was PlayStation 4, like it was a different generation, but it was still incredible. Like, yeah, that still might be the number one for me.
Yeah, like I agree with you a lot, Joe. Like, I feel like Spider-Man, the first Insomniac Spider-Man, because it was a new IP, not that there's never been a Spider-Man game before, but because this is, a franchise and a company that they've never had before, they just did so many things right. And everything that is great about Spider-Man 2 is because it's built on top of the foundation of Spider-Man 1. So it's like, and they improved on everything. And we talked about this on one of our episodes, but it's just like everything about it improved, from like simple little things like stopping cars easier. So you're not like really having to button mash that square like crazy.
Every time, smash.
Like you really, like I remember, like you really have to do it. Like,
yeah, it's cool the first time, but like the fifth time that you're doing it, like, all right.
You're like, can this just be automatic? So from simple things like that to just how the combat feels, everything is just better than Spider-Man 1. But again, Spider-Man 1 did it first. So that has to be worth something. I think I've been comparing this game a lot to God of War Ragnarok. Not that they're the same game at all, but just like God of War Ragnarok was incredible, but it was incredible because of the foundation that the first one set. And it's like they changed the perspective, so it was third person, so it felt like a brand new franchise almost. They changed the environment, they changed tons of things about it. So I'm gonna say that this is probably the best Spider-Man game for myself. But yeah, Spider-Man PS4 is right underneath it.
Do you guys remember the first time you played through Spider-Man 1, and it's one of those cutscenes where he's zipping around, you're like, what? You press X and you like flip on these concrete things and you're going to save people. That was mind-blowing. And then the zip line thing, I don't know, I wasn't able to do that in Spider-Man 2. I don't know why they took that away, or if it's because I was playing on a different difficulty, where you could you're swinging around and you see like a water tower and you can go in between it.
Oh, you can do that still.
Is that still doable? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think I did it once.
They've added more. There's a sequence when you're chasing Lizard and like the hunter people that are trying to get him. There's like a hanging subway car, and you could actually zip through that as you're swinging.
Okay.
And a couple different sequences, like when you're chasing the hunter birds, you actually like zip through a building if you fly.
I do remember that. I do remember that part. Yeah.
I think what's crazy about this game is they made Spider-Man 1 again. Definitely, like, I think the basis for what Insomniac's done is so good here, but they added so much, like making it a two main character game is insane. They had 2 full arcs built in, the immediate switching, the fact that you can move so much quicker. Like, I don't know. I think just web wings. Web wings are so good.
They're too good.
They're too good. I don't want to swing anymore. I just want to wing. The surfing on the water, if you like web wing down over the water and like hit it, you'll like kind of ski for a while.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what they do next, but I think like Insomniac just gets it. The closest thing to it is of course Spider-Man 2 for like the PlayStation 2 Xbox era. Is it just that Spider-Man 2s are very good?
I think in most successful franchises, the second game is usually the best game. Because like you establish the first game, you get that foundation, like I was saying. The second game, you get to improve on all the stuff. And then by the third game, you're kind of running out of ideas a little bit. And so you're just like, what worked last time? So,
yeah. I have two things to mention. So one, remember what I said earlier about Insomniac can pitch a crazy idea, and I'd probably be like, well, let's see what happens. Because if they pitched, all right, we're going to have Miles, Peter, and Mary Jane be playable. Harry's going to be Venom. But we're also going to have Kraven and Chameleon. And Carnage is going to make an appearance. You're like, what? That's too much. What are you going to do? That's what Spider-Man 3, the film, was, and it was a hot mess. But then they pulled it off, and it was incredible and fantastic.
They come back to you after that, like, oh yeah, we're all setting Mysterio and Sandman. They're gonna have full a bunch of audio you can listen to about the two of those characters.
Yeah, they're gonna have an intro with Sandman that's better than anything that we've seen in the films with Sandman.
Yeah,
that was such a cool intro.
It was a great intro.
Such a cool.
It immediately started the game off on a great foot. So.
The Spider-Man 1 by Insomniac had such a amazing intro as well, where you see Peter like around his apartment, and this felt like the right escalation of what they do. I really want Insomniac to just like whatever Marvel has in terms of rights, just be like, yeah, make it, because they set up, they have a Fantastic Four Easter egg where the Baxter Building exists now. Avengers, obviously, Doctor Strange. Everybody's here. Just let them do it. They get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Oh yeah, you're gonna ask what my second question?
Yeah, I was.
Yeah, it wasn't important, but I was talking to my other friend who has played both God of Wars, and he asked me to compare Spider-Man 2 or the franchise to God of War, but I haven't finished either of them. So for you two, I know you're both it seems like you're both fans of that franchise. Which franchise wins if you had to pit them against each other?
Oh boy.
Difficult.
Phil looks so distressed right now. It's like, why are you doing this to me?
For me personally, I would probably say God of War.
Wow. Okay.
But honestly, it's hard to compare them. Like, I know they're Sony exclusives and everything like that, but God of War, as you play it, the story is being written and you're seeing it unravel, and you're not comparing it to like, oh, what was in the God of War comic, or what was in the God of War movie, or what was in and so you don't have all these other medias that have been representing God of War. You have the games that all happened in the God of War timeline, but I really liked how, because Kratos was just this, you know, in the old God of War games, like, they were great games, but it was about like murdering a bunch of people and destroying everything. That's what the game was about, really. And you get to learn who the Greek gods are at the same time, and that's kind of fun. But like this new God of War, this new era of it, like really honed in on storytelling and relationship building, and like, I don't like. Even God of War I would say the first one was better, but even God of War Ragnarok, it's still like a 65-hour game if you want to do everything.
Whoa.
Like, and it's good content. It's not like you're going around, and so like I would put that above. But I definitely feel like part of my brain is like, well, it's a superhero game, so like how high can you like
it's hard because they're different genres, right?
Yeah. But here, okay, maybe we can segue this into as far as like game of the year. Joe, I'm not sure like how many games you've gotten to fully complete this year, but do you feel like I personally feel like it's definitely Spider-Man 2 is definitely a nominee, but I'm not sure if it wins the gold, in my personal opinion. What do you guys think?
Well, I definitely want to answer that, but I also want to hear Phil's tormented soul
choosing
God of War, the
yes.
Spider-Man franchise.
Man, God of War is really good. I love the idea that for me, I compare it. I'm kind of a Norse myth, like I'm a little into Norse myth. So
he gifted me a Norse mythology book by Neil Gaiman.
It's an
last
excellent
Christmas.
book.
It's a good book.
Yeah.
I'm burning through it. Yeah.
The idea of like making the Norse pantheon like a weird kind of crime family, just excellent. However, it doesn't have a guy who shoots webs out of his hands, so Spider-Man's gonna be the
winner there.
I think also the fact that they tied in Spider-Verse, and I think outside of the Spider-Verse movies, this is my favorite ever incarnation of Spider-Man. It's up there. I think both of those trilogies need to end for me to determine which one is the best. But yeah, because of my connection to Spider-Man, I think it's got to be Spidey.
Fair.
All right, games of the year.
Games of the year?
This is a weird place to slot in our top 5, but like, just see what's percolating there.
Top 5: Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 2. Because ain't nobody doing better. Also, I don't play as many video games, so Spider-Man 2 is my pick. What about you guys?
Go ahead, Phil.
Paul, you go for it. No.
Oh, okay.
You go for it.
All right. I'd say top 5, Spider-Man 2. I'm gonna put Jedi Survivor in there. I thought it was like the best Star Wars game in a very long time, especially because I did not like Jedi Fallen Order, the first one. I didn't hate it, but I just thought it was a little overrated. But I'm not a big Dark Souls fan, and that's kind of the format it was a little bit. I have this horrible feeling that I want to include Hogwarts Legacy in there. Like, I'm a Harry Potter fan, and I have to say it was the first like Harry Potter media that I've enjoyed in like 10 years. So like it really made me feel like I was in Hogwarts. So it's definitely not a winner though. out of my top 5. And I'm trying to think what else. I'm too aggravated with Starfield to really say that one's up there.
This year we had I was looking at like the list of games that released this year.
Sure.
Resident Evil 4 remake.
Okay.
Diablo 4. Starfield. Legend of Zelda. Hogwarts Legacy. Street Fighter 6. Dead Space remake. Armored Core. Final Fantasy 16. Too many games this year.
There's a lot. There's
too many good games. Ones.
It's the post-COVID. We finally have been able to release all this backed up stuff. So I think probably I think Spider-Man is front running for me, but I will not commit to that decision quite yet. So ask me in December.
I will commit for you. I will fill out your ballot. Really, he's voting Spider-Man 2.
The election was rigged. For me, Spider-Man 2 is up there. I think it's between that and Baldur's Gate.
Forgot about Baldur's Gate.
Baldur's Gate is great. It's like definitely a big thing to dive into. But I would suggest like that's a good like rounder out to see what else this year. I think that was just so transformative that it's hard for anything to compete. But there's still a couple like sleepers out there that I wanna mess around with. I don't think Legend of Zelda is gonna make it for me because while it was a great gameplay experience, I just stopped after a while and I was like, I don't really care about finishing this. I got all the gameplay stuff that I wanted out of it. We're good. We just kept moving.
Yeah, that's unfortunately what everyone who has played Tears of the Kingdom has told me. Because they played it for a very long time, couldn't finish it, walked away. So
that's my biggest gripe for video games. That's why I always go on easy mode. As soon as I start to struggle, I'm like, no, put this down.
It's not. I feel like you get to a point with those games where you're like, so I made a rocket ship and flew it into the sun, which seemed impossible. Now I have to go beat up just a big strong guy. I don't want to abort it. Like you just, there's no more mountains left to conquer. There's a surprise game for me, Remnant 2, Remnant from the Ashes.
Yeah,
that one came out like a kind of a lull, and it was such an excellent Dark Souls third-person shooter. I would suggest that to anyone, any time of the week. So I think my top 5 are Spider-Man and Baldur's Gate are up there. Remnant. Yeah, I don't know what the other ones are.
Sure.
We'll talk about this again in December.
To get back on track on Spider-Man before we call it, like one of the problems that I've heard about Tears of the Kingdom is like the map is just so large and there's so many things to do, and I feel like a lot of open world games have started to get a little carried away with their maps, where they're just mainly focused on making it big as opposed to like having things to do in the map. And I thought that with Spider-Man 2, I thought the map, obviously the fast travel and the movement help a great deal, but like the map just felt very manageable, even though it was a bigger map than the first game. So I guess, like, how did you guys feel about it being an open world game? And like, it just didn't feel like a big mountain to climb to 100% it, like a lot of games do.
That was one of my favorite aspects of Spider-Man 2. And it's weird, I've never really verbalized it until this conversation, but it made it so much fun to 100%. And I feel like any open world game that comes out from now should have some form of web flying, not necessarily like a Spider-Man web flying thing, right? But something where you could travel as fast as Spider-Man does across that map, because it just makes it so much more fun. I remember playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla or Odyssey, I think it was Odyssey, and just being like frustrated. Like I was like, I know I would get into this game if it was easier for me to travel, and like not a taking a boat simulator where it's like real life time to cross this body of water. So it's like one of my favorite things about it. It's strange that we haven't talked about it until now, but that was absolutely one of my favorite things about the game.
That and the fast travel being like when you're kind of doing your achievement hunting at the end, and you could just pick a specific building on the New York map and then hold triangle down for like 3 seconds, and then you like Spider-Man flies in and he's there. Amazing. I think, yeah, I really like the map size. Now when I like swing around even, like I remember there's a mission where Venom is kicking it at your house with Mary Jane and you're trying to get there. Yeah, they're having tea.
That's a paraphrase. Yeah, euphemism. Okay.
And like it was like you got to get here, and I was like I could fast travel, but it just felt so good to swing. Like it just felt like this really good role playing moment to get to like swing frantically over there. Um, on a similar note, how did you guys feel about the length of the game? Because there are a lot of people out there complaining that it was too short, which I think is in kind of the best case scenario for a complaint. It's like we just wanted more. How did you feel about the story being like 15 to 20-ish hours?
I loved it. I mean, I'm a broken record. I think it's the best game of the year. I actually prefer games to be 15 to 20 hours. Again, I am not the typical avid gamer that plays everything that comes out, but 15 to 20 hours, even when I see in how long to beat it, that sells me even more. Like, all right, great. Now, would I mind if it took 70 hours to 100% it? Absolutely not. Like, that'd be cool. I'd be cool. Yeah, I'd be cool with like a lot more side missions. Awesome. But the main mission being about 15 to 20 hours, I think it's a sweet spot for me.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with that. Like I thought it was a good length. I hear the criticism that it was a bit short, but the great part about that is that every time I completed a story mission in that game, I immediately wanted to keep playing the story and wanted to just go to the next thing, because in every story mission they moved the narrative forward, as opposed to just being like, this is a story mission for fluff, or like, you know, when you're watching a TV show and you're like, why did that episode even happen? Because they didn't do anything in that episode. They just have to make 10 episodes this season, and so they've shot some filler in there. And so I felt there was no filler in the game. You could argue that the side missions are filler, but I would argue, like, then what is a side mission then? Like, so yeah, I would agree, though. I wish that after I had completed the game, maybe there was like another thing to collect for the end game. So I think the length could have been helped for the end game, where maybe there's like some, I don't know. I know they added like the symbiote towers near the end of the game, but maybe there's some other symbiote thing or some other batch of camps or something you have to do, or specific side missions that were inaccessible until you actually beat the story. So, and that way, I feel like you could experience the story within a 20-hour window and have that be a reasonable chunk of time. And then if you're still having fun with Spider-Man, you could keep it rolling with side missions and other things after that. So I would say Endgame, a little too short, but the story was tight. You know, like there was never a mission in that game where I was like, this sucks. Like, that never happened. So, and there's a lot of those missions in some games where it's like, well, you got to go around town and you got to collect 5 of these and 7 of these and talk to old man Biggity Bop, and he's going to make you a thing so you can bring it over to and it was never any of that. And so it was shorter, but I appreciated that it was quality over quantity.
I think I was starting to experience of like, oh, this mission feels a little bit like fluff during one of the Craven missions. It's like where you're kind of breaking into his base and you're discovering who the hunters are and what their deal is, and you find like the other parts of the supervillain stuff. And I was like, okay, well, I'm just sort of doing some stealth stuff. This is fun. I'm enjoying it. And then Craven kills Scorpion, and I was like, oh, they moved it. They moved the needle quite a bit. They wrapped up the seriousness. But I guess before, I don't know, my only sort of negative is the idea of Craven, and it's just like a cognitive dissonance thing for me. Craven being the best hunter in the world, and it's so that you can have things to fight for sure, but has an army of hunters. Like, I feel like Craven doesn't ever live up to being like this incredible hunter, because you're like, well, you're cheating, my man. You've got like an army of people just beat me up, and then you come out and shot me with a crossbow.
Yeah.
I don't know how you remedy that, and I enjoy fighting the hunters still when I'm just swinging around, but yeah.
Yeah, he also studied his prisoners and then found their weaknesses, and I mean, I guess that's fair, but I think about like Deathmatch on YouTube, where these two heroes meet on the street and it's just a fight to the death. And I felt like Craven was more of that style, where he just like finds you on the street and you're a formidable opponent and he wants to kill you. But I guess they're splitting the difference. They're kind of compromising with those ideas.
Yeah, real quick, Phil. Like I thought at some point in the game they were gonna take Spider-Man like out of New York for a mission. I thought that would have been cool, just for like, it could have been very on the rails of like put him somewhere in Craven's turf where they're in the jungle or they're in Siberia. And like I started theorizing that during the Miles Morales mission where you're jumping through the Doctor Strange portals and like you're in Antarctica all of a sudden, and that kind of stuff. So I would have liked to have seen that, but not necessarily necessary. Like the whole Craven thing is like, yeah, they need to get all these characters into the game, and he's a great tool to do that. But yeah, it didn't really feel like he was a hunter, or it felt like he had done all of his hunting resume off screen. And now this is his retirement plan, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Bring me the spider.
Yeah, I wanted a fair 1v1 with Craven and whoever he was trying to kill, where it didn't ever seem that way. Like Venom, when he was fighting Venom, there was a bell or there was like sound stuff, and it's like, all right, well, I guess that's like part of the skill set is to figure out the weakness.
Right.
All right. Another question too, though, in terms of length of the game, is there a game that took you 80 hours to beat and you thought this was the perfect amount of time that I wanted to spend on this game? Because I don't think that exists. But
either
I don't
like
play as much as you guys.
Ghost of Tsushima or like God of War Ragnarok was pretty long, and the entire time I was like, man, I don't want this to end. Man, I don't want this to end.
80 is pushing it though, I think.
Okay, 60.
Yeah, I think there have been games that have hit 60, and they only reach that length because I'm trying to do everything. I mean, like Starfield, I've been playing like crazy. I think I have 120 hours in it. But like, I don't know that I can say that it was worth it. Like, I think some games are able to do like a 35-hour story and then have, like I was talking about, that end game content where you can just keep playing. But I would say after about 65 hours, yeah, if I didn't get what I wanted to out of the game by then, I don't know that I'm ever going to, and it's like just a diminishing return.
Totally. Yeah, I think I'm it's great conversation all around. I feel a lot of it was like, yeah, yep, but they did a good one this time, you guys.
Well, yeah, they did a fantastic one. And if you guys want to wrap it up, I'm totally cool. But if you were to change Craven's fight scenes, what would you do? What would you have done?
Oh, I have a pitch. I was thinking about it. I was like, I don't want to bring it up. It's going to be too...
Just pitch.
I know, it might be too much, but I want to hear.
This is your elevator pitch.
So, my idea is, remember in Spider-Man, the original, when you fight Taskmaster?
Mm-hmm.
Who just kind of pop up. I feel like Craven should have been like a combination of that, and if you've played Arkham Knight, when you discover Man-Bat, like you're just swinging and all of a sudden your rope gets cut or something, or you get like pulled in and you fight Craven on a rooftop, and if you win you get like a bunch of experience, but most of the time you like lose and he's just like, all right, I'll see you later, and like he's just testing your limits. I would have loved that, to make him really like a menacing presence where you're like, oh damn it, Craven.
Yeah, and then you could like be intermittently fighting him throughout the game.
Yeah,
I would say like it didn't really feel like Spider-Man or the Spider-Men were being hunted by Craven at all. Like, which is a little weird, because that's his whole thing. And so it kind of felt like and because he did his research, like he knew all of Spider-Man's villains. So he's like, I'm going to hunt down all of these villains that lost to Spider-Man
Very good point.
And instead of just hunting Spider-Man, which I know from my research team army that he beat all of them. So I should probably just fight him instead of all of these, goons.
Damn, this might be the biggest
Plot
knock
hole.
on Spider-Man 2 I've heard. Like, valid knock.
When it was revealed that he killed Shocker, I was like, why'd you fight Shocker? You basically beat up an old man. There's no fun there.
And Vulture, Vulture's real old. Like, come on.
Yeah, that's like if Bane captured Kite Man and killed him. Like, why did you do?
It's like, look at this, Batman. Look how good I wasn't impressed. Kite Man defeats himself.
Yeah, strong wins.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would have liked to. I guess I would have liked his narrative / his boss battles been about like hunting and trapping Spider-Man. And they kind of did that where he used like Miles as bait towards the end of the game. But I don't know. It was kind of a rushed setup with that, where it's like, well, he just happened to capture Miles, and so now he's going to use it as bait instead of this elaborate plan of, I want to fight the strongest warrior in New York City, which is Spider-Man, and I know this. And yet I'm gonna. He was just like ignoring Spider-Man the whole time. He's just kind of like a nuisance.
Yeah.
So.
He's like, get out of here. I've got to kill Kingpin while he's in jail.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
And he one-shot Spider-Man with the knife, right?
Yeah.
How did he kill him?
Yeah.
He just one-shots him.
That's a little lame as well.
Yeah.
So I did feel it was
lame. I also will say, it is kind of weird whenever they kill a Spider-Man villain or a Batman villain for me, because I'm like, oh, well, there's usually a lot more of that. Like like Punisher kills his villains. I feel like with Batman and Spider-Man, with such a rich like background of characters, they are so connected to Peter Parker that it feels weird to kill them. But maybe that was part of what was good. I'm like waffly on that.
I'll disagree with you on that. I think that there's especially in superhero media, there's too much of they survived. And like, if I'm not saying that it needs to be The Boys or Invincible or anything like that, but like, it's nice when there are like real world consequences and then the story is allowed to move on. And so it's like, yeah, Vulture and Shocker and Scorpion, they're all dead, and Kraven is dead. But I feel like they did what they were gonna do with those characters in this franchise. Like bringing back Vulture in Spider-Man 3 at best, it's like a mini boss fight that you're like, okay, this is some side quest thing. So like, I feel like characters that they still have room to do things with are still alive in the franchise. We're probably going to see some version of Venom again. We'll probably see Mysterio again. We could even see Sandman again, although I don't know if they'll rehash that with the huge opening. But I like when there's some death. I understand we don't want to kill off everybody, but there's got to be some consequences to things. So
I do think they walked the fine line where it wasn't super deadly, but like you said, there were consequences to these like larger than life, and they already did Sinister Six. They can't really like with Vulture and some of those people, they can't really go above and beyond that. So yeah, I agree.
Okay.
You won me over.
All right, how are we feeling? We're gonna wrap up here soon. Any last little Spider-Man thoughts before we go? Any opinions we didn't get a chance to dive into?
I thought the game was perfect until this talk, and now I can't stop thinking about Kraven and how he should have just been hunting Spider-Man because the villains. But aside from that, man, the experience was so good that it doesn't really matter. So it was still a fantastic game.
Yeah. For me, I really loved what they did, like uniting these characters and making them all like Peter and Harry, one of the best versions of that relationship because it didn't involve James Franco or Tobey Maguire, which is perfect for me. But yeah, I'm so excited for whatever Insomniac has next. I feel like I'm alone in this. I kind of like Miles's end of the game suit, even though his hair is showing.
Oh yeah, okay. Let's talk about that real quick before we leave, because the internet is ablaze with haters for the suit. So you like it, Joe? How do you feel about the suit? Whatever.
I thought it was a glitch. I was like, did I change my suit? Like, why is he wearing this dummy outfit that's like neon and like, who is this?
Yeah.
Then later on, like, well, I guess it's part of the story, and that was it. That's how the I wasn't a fan. I wasn't a fan of the suit. I think I changed it as soon as I could. Kudos for originality, but I take those kudos back because it was lame.
Okay.
Paul, what do you feel about it?
I thought it was fine. Like I just thought it was a little weird. It's like, you got a new suit. Yeah, I'm gonna get one too. And like if they would have justified it in some like Miles mission where he's like, I got to learn how to really hone these new electric powers, and so I'm gonna make a suit that helps me amplify those, like, and because I know he had those like blue streaks on that. If they justified it like that, I know everybody hates that his hair is sticking out. I don't really care. Like, if I was Spider-Man, I wouldn't want to have mask hair all the time, so I kind of get that vibe. But it was fine. It was out of left field, I guess. So
I mean, I like it. There's a weird line. He says like, "Oh, it's a Miles Morales original." It was like, wait, the suit that you made in the last game, you made that. It's Miles Morales original. Yeah. I like that it's different from Spider-Man because like it's not just like sort of a color swap like the Miles suit is. The only thing I don't like about it is that I guess there's like some Adidas came out and those are the Adidas he's wearing, so it's like a tie-in kind of.
Oh, there's real world shoes.
Yeah, that are the same as the shoes that he has.
It's a freaking marketing. Oh, that's why. Okay.
Yeah. It took a little of the wind out of the sails for me, but I like the design. Although I hope in Spider-Man 3 he is back to the black and red.
There should be a voiceover like, "Hey, yeah, I just got a suit. Adidas sponsored it. I mean, it's a Miles original."
I mean, there's been lots of AI voiceover for that scene in the game. I don't know if you guys have seen it. Of like,
I will watch it now.
Like Peter talking back is like, "Oh man, that suit is trash," but it's in his voice, so it's pretty funny. All right, well, we are going to wrap it up there for this spoiler cast. Phil, Joe, thank you for joining us. Joe, maybe we'll have you on for some other games that you might be playing, so we'll keep in touch for that. If you enjoyed our podcast, please click that subscribe button or that like button. You can also follow us on Spotify if you prefer the audio version. If you prefer the video version, you can find us on YouTube, and you can also follow us on any of our handles listed somewhere around this video that I have not choreographed yet. So, all right, thanks for joining us, and peace out.
Peace.
Bye.